My son skipped my birthday. But the morning my restaurant chain made headlines for reaching a $420 million valuation, he suddenly texted, "Can we talk tonight? I need your advice on something important." I didn't know it then, but everything shifted the moment those words appeared. My name is Halston Morella. I am 60. The night before that message arrived, I set 2 plates on my dining table, just as I'd done every birthday since Rowan moved out. 1 plate for me, 1 plate for me, 1 plate empty. For the hope I tried not to name aloud, he didn't. By 7, the candles on my lemon cake melted into soft yellow pools. By 8, the pasta cooled. I reheated it twice, pretending he might still call, pretending I wasn't alone in a room built for 2. At 9, I finally ate. I tried not to look at the framed photograph beside the salt shaker, but my hand found it anyway. Rowan at 8, 1 front tooth missing, holding a crooked paper crown he made for me on Mother's Day. His grin had been wide enough to fill a whole room. I pressed my thumb to the glass. Somewhere between that little boy and the grown man who treated me like an afterthought, something had cracked. Slowly and quietly, until the fracture became a distance I no longer knew how to cross. After cleaning up, I blew out the untouched candles, rinsed the dishes, and slipped the photograph into my purse. I couldn't explain why. Maybe habit. Maybe hope that hadn't fully died, no matter how much I pretended otherwise. At dawn, my phone buzzed nonstop. Investors, journalists, old friends, my assistant, all their messages buzzing with the same headline, Morella Group restaurant chain reaches $420 million valuation. My pulse didn't spike. I didn't cry. I only felt a slow, steady calm, one that had taken decades to earn. Then the final buzz came, short, sharp, familiar. "Rowan, come over at 7. We need to talk. It is important." I held the phone in my hand as the ache from the empty chair the night before flared again, deep and echoing. Something in me shifted small, cautious, but very much alive. I didn't know what he wanted, but I knew this whatever happened that evening. I wasn't walking into it as the same woman who waited alone behind 2 plates. The next part of my story began with that message. I spent the whole morning trying not to read Rowan's message again, but it kept drifting through my mind as I scrubbed the counters in my test kitchen. The smell of roasted garlic lingered, pulling memories of the early days into my mind to the tiny apartment kitchen where everything began. Back then, I didn't have investors or managers. I barely had $20 left after the divorce. Rowan was 4, wide-eyed and quiet, watching me shape dough on the counter because it calmed him. My ex-husband, Dean, stood in the doorway the day he left and said, "I don't see this lasting. Halston, maybe it's time for a real job." He closed the door like he was sealing a verdict. I started small, a hand-painted sign, a menu scribbled on paper, a grill so old it coughed smoke every time I turned it on. I burned my forearms on the grease traps, worked double shifts, and slept in the back room with Rowan curled against me on a pile of folded aprons. Some nights he whispered, "Mom, you're tired." And I'd whisper back, "I'm building us something." When the restaurant finally opened Morella's Kitchen, my first customer was a mailman who said, "If the food's half as good as the smell, you'll make it." He gave me $10 and a smile. It kept me going longer than I admitted. I did everything alone: payroll, deliveries, dishes, cooking until my hands shook. Whenever Rowan needed something, a field trip fee, a doctor appointment, I'd lock the front door and run across town. A couple of regulars used to tease, "You're doing the work of 3 people," and I'd just laugh it off. I didn't tell them I was doing it for him, that every sacrifice, every blister, every night I fell asleep in my clothes was a choice I made for Rowan's future. I wiped my hands on a towel and stared at my phone again. There were so many moments when I chose him over myself. I just wasn't sure he ever saw any of them. By the time I walked into headquarters that morning, the whole building buzzed like someone had plugged every wall into a power line. Phones rang nonstop. My assistant appeared, signaling reporters who had already gathered. "Halston, congratulations," she called as I stepped inside. The valuation announcement just went live. $420 million. You're everywhere. I nodded, though my chest felt strangely still. Pride should have rushed in first. But Rowan's message from earlier kept hovering over everything like a shadow you can't shake off. 2 investors met me outside my office. One of them, a man named Carter who'd doubted me 5 years straight, grabbed my hand with both of his. "You did it," he said. "This valuation opens doors, growth, partnerships, opportunities. You've earned this." His enthusiasm bounced off me like rain on a window. Inside, Lena, my CFO, spun around in her chair with a half laugh. "I've gotten 27 emails from journalists in the last hour. Food Network wants a segment. A magazine wants to profile the company. I already told them you'll consider fine." I said softly, "Handle what you can." She paused. "You okay?" I opened my mouth, but my phone buzzed again. Another investor. Then a chef from our Seattle location. Then a bakery supplier sending congratulations. I turned my phone face down, but it didn't stop buzzing. "Whatever Rowan said," Lena added gently, "don't let it ruin this." I forced a breath. "He wants to meet tonight." She didn't smile. "Of course he does." A delivery guy rushed past my door holding champagne bottles. Employees clapped in the hallway as someone pulled up the news segment on a laptop. "This valuation changes everything for us," Carter said from the doorway. "This is the kind of moment people remember for decades." I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt all the years of work rising into something sharp and bright. And part of me did, somewhere beneath the ache sitting quietly in my ribs. I finally picked up my phone and read Rowan's message again. The words cold and clipped. "Come over at 7. We need to talk. It's important." I closed my fingers around the phone. Steady but heavy. Whatever tonight was going to be, it wouldn't be simple. By early afternoon, the congratulations at headquarters started to feel like static in the background, loud, constant, but somehow distant. I stepped outside to breathe. Mark lowered his voice. "Your son contacted our firm for a bridge loan. I'd barely brought it to my lips when a familiar voice called my name. Halston." I turned. It was Mark Ellery, a former supplier from my earliest years. Back then, he delivered sacks of flour in a dented truck, and always left with a slice of whatever pie I had cooling on the counter. Now he wore a tailored coat and carried a tablet. "I work in finance now," he said, noticing my surprise. "Corporate accounts. Small business lending. That's why I'm here." He lowered his voice. "I need to talk to you about Rowan." My stomach tightened. "What about him?" Mark shifted his weight. "I shouldn't be telling you this, but your son approached our firm for a bridge loan 3 weeks ago. A big one. His startup's bleeding cash. Some investors pulled back. Vendors sent warnings. Things were worse than I expected. I felt the air pull thin around me. He never said a word. He wouldn't," Mark said quietly. "He's proud and scared. He kept insisting he'd find a way to fix it before anyone found out." I looked down at my coffee. Suddenly cold. "How bad is it?" "Bad," he said. "He's not malicious. He's overwhelmed. He's trying to outrun a hole that keeps widening." He hesitated. "I thought you deserved to know before tonight." I nodded, though the movement barely made it past my throat. "Thank you, Mark." He placed a hand on my arm. "If he reaches out now, it's because he's drowning." When he walked away, I stood there for a long moment, letting the truth settle. Rowan's message replayed in my mind, no longer mysterious, just heavy. "Come over at 7. We need to talk. It's important." He wasn't reaching for me. He was reaching for air. I walked back toward the building, the weight of his fear trailing behind me, steady and cold. I spent the rest of the afternoon in my office with the door shut, the lights dimmed, and my laptop open to Rowan's name. I pulled together key documents, unpaid invoices, vendor complaints, notices of dispute enough to confront him with the facts. I can't keep working without pay. I hope Rowan gets help. A notice of intent to sue from a distributor, a spreadsheet showing projected losses that made my chest ache. Lena knocked once before pushing the door open. "You're still here. I need copies of these," I said, turning the screen toward her. "All of them." Her eyebrows lifted. "You're taking this to him." "I'm taking the truth," I said. "He won't listen otherwise." She sat across from me. "Halston, be careful how you use it." "I'm not going there to hurt him," I said, though my voice shook a little. "But I'm not walking in blind again." While the printer hummed in the corner, I reached into my purse and pulled out the faded photo I always kept tucked inside. Rowan at 8, flowers smudged on his cheek. Clutching my apron. "I want to cook like you," he whispered. Lena watched me slip the photo into a folder with the documents. "You sure you want to bring that? It's the only thing he ever gave me that felt simple," I said. "Maybe it'll remind him of who he used to be." She nodded slowly. "Then take it." When everything was assembled, the debt summaries, the notices, the emails, the picture, I closed the folder and held it against my chest. I wasn't going to Rowan's house as a woman, hoping her son would finally choose her. I was going as someone who refused to pretend anymore. At 7 o'clock, I picked up my keys and the folder, steadying myself for the conversation, waiting on the other side of his door. Rowan's townhouse stood at the edge of the block. Clean lines and cold angles. A place that felt more like a display than a home. I stood on the porch with the folder pressed to my chest. The porch light flickered twice before settling, as if hesitating to welcome me. I knocked. The door cracked open. Rowan's eyes meeting mine briefly. "Mom, you're early," he said, voice thin, controlled. I said I'd be here at 7. He stepped aside without looking directly at me. "Yeah, come in." Inside, the quiet felt sharp. Rowan moved quickly, sweeping a jacket off the couch, closing his laptop with one fast motion, straightening a stack of unopened mail. He was trying to hide something, and not very well. "You want water coffee?" he asked. "No, I'm all right." "Right." His jaw tightened. "Big day," he said. "But I know why you're really here. I didn't come here to talk about the valuation." I said. He nodded slowly. "Of course." I watched him pace, fingers tapping against his thigh, the same nervous tick he had when he broke a neighbor's window at 10 years old and tried to hide the slingshot. "I appreciate you showing up," he said. "We haven't talked much lately." Lately. My voice came out softer than I expected. "Rowan, you didn't text me for almost a year." He winced. "Mom, don't do this tonight." "You invited me," I said. "I'm only answering the questions you're pretending not to ask." That stopped him. He looked around the room again, eyes darting like he wanted to run. "You could have congratulated me," I added. He swallowed hard. "I'm trying. This isn't a social visit. I assumed that," I said. He faced away from me, hands pressed to his hips, shoulders sagging. "I need help." His voice cracked just enough to expose the fear beneath all that forced confidence. I set the folder on the coffee table. "I thought you might." He turned slowly, eyes unsettled. "What's that, Mom? What are you doing?" I placed my hand on the folder. "Steady. Before you ask me for anything, we need to talk about the truth." He swallowed, understanding flickering across his face. The distance between us felt like a locked door neither of us had dared touch for years. "Tonight," I finally turned the handle. Rowan stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, eyes tight. "I need you to hear me out before you jump to conclusions," he said. I'm listening, I answered. He exhaled, pacing. My startup just needs time, a few months. Maybe a bridge loan. $200,000 would stabilize everything. I wouldn't be asking if it wasn't serious. I set the folder on the coffee table. His eyes flicked to it, confused. What's that? Everything you're not saying. He frowned. Mom, come on. I said I'd explain. You didn't explain. I said, you rehearsed. I opened the folder, sliding the first document toward him. Some invoices are overdue. Vendors have raised concerns. There's even a potential legal notice. His face flushed. Who told you about that? Someone who didn't want to watch you drown, I said. And someone who thought I deserved to know the truth before walking into this house. He stepped back as if the papers were burning. You had no right to dig into my business. You asked me for money. That makes it my business. I didn't ask for a lecture. He snapped. I came to you because you're my mother. Then talk to me like I'm your mother. Not your last resort investor. A muscle twitched in his jaw. This is exactly why I didn't tell you earlier. You always think you know everything, and you always think telling me nothing is easier. His mouth opened, then tightened. You don't get it. You weren't there. I've been working nonstop trying to keep this thing alive. I lost sleep, lost friends, and you were off running your empire. His voice cracked. You chose your restaurants over being my mother. The words hit harder than I expected. Sharp and familiar. I didn't choose them over you. I said quietly, I chose them so we could survive. I chose them because your father walked out and someone had to build a life for us. You still left, he shot back. Every night. You were always at the restaurant, slut. And every morning I came home. I said, every bill I paid of a pot, every field trip I covered the support, every birthday cake I baked even when I had to frost it at 2 a.m. His eyes flickered. I didn't ask for any of that. No. I said, but you punish me like I did something wrong by trying. Silence stretched between us, tight and brittle. I reached into the folder and pulled out the last item, the faded photo of him at 8 years old. Smiling. Flour on his cheeks. I kept this with me for 20 years. I said, even on nights I slept on restaurant floors. I never stopped choosing you. Rowan stared at the picture, his throat working. Then why does it feel like love always comes with a price? I didn't answer. The truth sat heavy between us. Love had become something we both carried with bruised hands, and neither of us knew how to put it down without breaking it. Chapter 8: The Boundary. I should have set long ago. Rowan stared at the photo in my hand like it was a memory he didn't know how to touch. Mom, I just need help this once. $200,000 isn't impossible for you now. I can't give you the money. I said, not like this. Not without a plan. His head snapped up. You're serious, I am. I kept my voice steady. Not because I don't love you, but because I do. What does that even mean? It means I won't save you from the consequences you keep outrunning. I placed the folder between us. Your company can survive if you face what's in these pages. You need to be honest with your investors. You need a repayment plan. And you need someone qualified to handle operations before the whole thing collapses. He shook his head. You're talking like a board member, not my mother. I'm talking like a mother who's spent too many years pretending everything's fine. I stepped closer. Get a financial advisor. Get a therapist. Let people help you the right way. His eyes glistened, frustrated and wounded. So you're just walking away? No, I said softly. I'm stepping back so you can stand up. He looked down, breath trembling, the weight of my refusal settling between us like a door half shut and waiting. Rowan's first text came before I even reached my car. If you cared at all, you'd help me. A second arrived a minute later. Forget it. I shouldn't have asked. Then another. I'm sorry. I'm just overwhelmed. Please don't be mad. By the time I pulled into my driveway, there were 9 messages, anger folding into guilt, guilt dissolving into apology. I set the phone face down on the counter without replying. Lena stopped by the office early the next morning. She took one look at me and said, "Rough night. He wants me to fix everything," I said. "The way I always did. And you didn't," she said softly. "I couldn't," I answered. "Not anymore." She sat across from me, elbows on her knees. "You know, sometimes letting someone fall is the only way they learn to climb." I rubbed my palms together, the muscles in my arms still tight. "He thinks I abandoned him." "No," she said. "He thinks struggle means he failed you. That's different." I didn't speak for a moment. I just listened to the steady ticking of the wall clock, an unfamiliar, gentle quiet. My phone lit up again on the desk beside me. Rowan. I didn't reach for it. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space room enough to breathe, to grieve, to hope something good might grow from the distance instead of drowning in it. 3 weeks passed before I finally returned to the tiny restaurant where everything began. The same chime rang when I opened the door, soft and familiar. A young line cook stood at the prep table, sleeves pushed up, cheeks flushed with concentration. He looked up quickly. "You're Halston Morella." "Right, I've been practicing your dishes." There was a tremble in his hands, subtle, but I recognized it instantly. Rowan had the same shake when he first held a knife. I stepped beside him. "Your grip's close," I said gently. "Here, try this." I adjusted his hand, and his shoulders loosened with relief. "My family says cooking's pointless," he admitted quietly. "They think I'm wasting my life." A small ache tightened in my chest. People said the same to me. I told him, "But you're here. That means something." He gave a hopeful laugh. "You really think I can make it?" "I do," I said. "And if you want guidance, I'll help you." His eyes widened. "Seriously. Seriously." When he turned back to his station, I walked to the counter, set down a single cupcake, and lit a candle. My birthday had passed, but this small candle felt like claiming a moment for myself. If this story moved you, comment or subscribe for more.